I'm hopping on today to talk to barriers to fullness and eating without distraction. So, I'm covering this week in my podcast, principle number 5, so how to feel your fullness. So, if you remember a few videos ago, I talked about all the different places, or on the podcast, I talked about all the different places that we would tend to feel hunger in our bodies, right? So, if you don't know how you experience hunger in your body, that's something that is important to go and sit with and see, like, gee, if I'm hungry, is it like that I feel lightheaded? Do I have that sensation? Because you want to know how you experience hunger. A lot of us are living distractedly and multitasking. So to be able to experience or recognize our hunger, it takes like removing these barriers. Okay, so principle number 5 is to feel your fullness, but you will have no idea if you're full if you're doing things and eating distracted. So even though we can multitask, our mind can really only focus on one thing at a time. So it's just like a camera lens if you think about it like that. So if you're eating while you're doing another activity, you can either eat past fullness, you might not even notice how much you ate, you're probably not going to enjoy the food as much, and you could continue to eat when your body doesn't need any more fuel when you feel full. So one of the keys to helping get in touch with how fullness feels in your body is to break down those barriers to fullness, which is eating distracted. So I wanted to walk you guys through super simple exercise. It's in the Intuitive Eating Workbook. So I'm on principle number 5, page 110 to 111. And it's eating without distraction, self-awareness. I'm going to walk you guys through this super quick. So you're going to place an X next to activities that you frequently engage in while you're eating. So remember, we don't want to multitask when we're eating. We want to have focus and have that mindful eating experience. You'll enjoy your food more. You'll feel full faster. If you have problematic eating, which means that maybe you're overeating, you'll be able to work on that. So place an X next to the activities that you do. So I'm going to look at the book so I cover everything. Number 1 is watching television or movie. Okay, do you do that when you're eating? Texting. Are you reading a book? Are you reading a magazine? Are you surfing the internet? Are you reading or posting on social media when you're eating? Are you working at your desk while you're eating? And I'm going to put my hand up for that one. I do that. It's something that now that I'm working at home, I can stop and I can actually go to my eating place in the house, and that can reduce that distracted eating. Are you performing household chores, sorting through your mail, checking email or voicemail, checking your smartphone, playing digital games, creating to-do lists, reading the newspaper, reading the text on the cereal box? That's still like that you're not focused on the eating part, right? Are you walking around? Are you driving? Are you talking on the phone? Are you eating while you're making kids' lunches? And I'll put my hand up for that too, because I often do that at breakfast time. So those are all the places where you're going to mark if you're engaged in another activity when you are eating. And then review those items that you've checked off. And I want you to think if you do them every day, every meal, only breakfast, only lunch, only dinner, or only snacks. And then think back when you're in those activities. Do you notice that you're distracted from actually eating your food by those activities? And what would happen if you just took those activities away? What would happen if you just sat and focused on eating? How would that feel in your body? Would it feel weird? Would it feel like you're wasting time? Would it feel uncomfortable? Think about like if you chose intentionally not to partake in a distraction activity while you were eating, how does that feel? Because I think for a lot of us, it might feel strange. It's kind of like that old example of going to a restaurant by yourself, right? People go to a restaurant maybe by themselves if they're traveling or whatever, but often they'll take a book as company, right? But that's still not being fully mindful of that eating experience, right? And then the next question is, what do you need to do to feel ready to eat without distraction? So for some of us, that might be making more time. So if I'm going to eat while I'm making kids' lunches, maybe I need to get up even a half an hour earlier so I can eat without having to do another activity at the same time. Because we're also teaching our kids that behavior, right? That distracted eating. My rule at my house is no toys at the table. but the kids are, you know, big on reading and figuring out words. So they're reading boxes and stuff. But if I'm not sitting at the table and I'm eating while I'm making their lunches, I'm not setting a great example for eating with that just as the activity, right? Yeah, so what would you have to do? And then optimally, like you would eat without any distraction. That might feel really like far out there, really unachievable. So maybe in the first place, we start with like planning 1 or 2 meals a week where like, so I could say Wednesday at lunch, I am going to eat without distraction, or Wednesday at breakfast, because I'm on my own that day, I'm going to eat without distraction, and intentionally put that focus back on the meal. And then we can start to notice what happens. Like maybe I feel my fullness faster. Maybe I take 2 bites of something and think, oh, I really don't like that. Like when we start to pay attention to food, we can actually start to experience that food more. And that can give us feelings of satiety faster. It can help us identify likes and dislikes. It can help us know if like, okay, was that satisfying? And that's a question I'm asking a lot of my clients lately when they eat something for breakfast. Like I had a client today who's just eating chicken because that's how they felt that they had to eat to control their disease state. But my question is always, does that satisfy you? Because we don't just have to eat chicken. We don't just need protein at breakfast. We can incorporate other foods, right? So that is what I want you guys to think about is what are your barriers to fullness? Is distracted eating one of them? And where can you change that behavior 1 meal at a time? It doesn't have to be like every meal, like 21 meals in a week where you're not distracted, but it's what's stopping you from having that mindful eating experience, and what would happen if you were intentionally eating and just eating. So try it and let me know how it goes. All right, guys, I hope that you are well and have a fantastic week.